The Kwame Ture Society deserves a thunderous applause for this program. And I like the flow of the conversation, and I promise we'll keep this flowing. So flexibility is the order of the day. On behalf of the Zimbabwe-Cuba Friendship Association, I'm honored to be here. I know about Assata Shakur through Kwame Ture. In 1990, Kwame Ture made his first trip to Cuba in 23 years. In 1967, he went when he was the chairman of SNCC, Organization of Latin American Solidarity, and the young Comandante Fidel Castro said, if imperialism touches one grain on his head, retribution will be guaranteed. And he goes back in 1990 for the Malcolm X Symposium, and it is there that he reconnects with Assata Shakur. There's a significance in that connection because many who focus on the Black Panther Party start the Black Panther Party in Oakland. Wrong, 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 wrong. Lowndes County, Alabama is where it starts. That's important in the context of Assata Shakur because that party took up arms. That's its inception, going against naked white terrorism in Alabama, and Lowndes County being the most violent place in Alabama. And Assata Shakur being the mother of urban guerrilla warfare, it was a match made in heaven. In that presentation, Brother Kwame says, Assata in Cuba is as safe as in baseball. That is very important because if you take a look at that, and you look at the fact that in 1990, Namibia gets its independence. Namibia having a 24-year armed struggle against German colonialism in Africa. So that's one of the connections. But Kwame is credited for the most part for reintroducing his generation to the works of Kwame Sekou Ture and Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We're right here at Howard University in 1972, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party is established in this country. Of course, in the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, 5 years before Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah talks about it. So when he reconnects with Assata Shakur, so he's credited for reintroducing them to his generation. But if you ever heard Kwame Ture speak, and he would go into a whole segment of the role of women in our struggle, Assata Shakur would either be the first, second, or third name he always mentioned, and we would tease him and say, when are you going to say her name right? He would say Assata Shakur all the time. So that was my first initial connection to her. And of course, we're talking about Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the face of the African Revolution, who taught all Africans the best way to measure the degree of a country's revolutionary awareness is by the political maturity of its women. So of course, when you highlight something ideologically on that level, simplistic, lucid, yet sophisticated, you have to have a practical example of that. Who's a better practical example than her? And then when you begin to talk about women in urban guerrilla warfare, she represents a pantheon. So when you think of Assata Shakur, if you mention her in Angola, they're thinking of the Organization of Angolan Women who took up arms against Portuguese colonialism. If Assata Shakur's name resonates with Africans in Mozambique, you cannot be surprised because a 25-year-old exited from the world named Josina Marshall, the first wife of Samora Marshall, who's the first woman to go through guerrilla training in Mozambique, in Frelimo, who also took up arms for their liberation. If you bring her up in Zimbabwe, they're going to think of Joyce Mujuru, the first vice president in modern African women's history, whose war name was Tarai Ropanungo, who's the first Zimbabwean guerrilla fighter to shoot down a Rhodesian warplane. So when we began to look at her in relationship to what she represented, and at the time, coming from the 90s generation, us being called Generation X, that by any means necessary resonated with us because we said we'll liberate ourselves through positive action, strikes, demonstrations, and boycotts, and that's what we have to do, like Ghana did in 57, like Guinea did in 58, like Libya did in 69, like the Congo did in 60. But if armed struggle is the order of the day, let us be accurate when we shoot. So Assata Shakur's life, Assata Shakur's trajectory, Assata Shakur is also, the name Assata is also connected to a liberator in Guinea named Assata Bangora, who is one of, and if you know anything about the Democratic Party of Guinea, the first political party in the anti-colonial movement in Africa. You had movements, you had fronts, but that's the first political party in 1946. So when you take a look at that, the connections are invaluable, and there are too many to mention. So this is the way that we got connected to her. And I just wanted to answer that particular question, because that's how you want us to do this, right? So that's that question for you. All right.